Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud and so glad to have here tonight Tom McDermott from Rick James and the Stone City Band. He's an incredible guitar player, funk meister, a guy that I used to watch, back in the day. It kind of gave me a blueprint for what I wanted to do as a guitar player, is seeing Tom being the white guy in an all black band. And that is something that I've done a lot, over my career and playing in bands and stuff, and combining the rock with the funk is just it's such a cool thing, man, and I'm just so glad to have you here.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So you're originally, I did my research, you're originally from Burbank.
Yeah, lived pretty much my whole life there.
Wow. So
Yeah.
so I so we can go, dude.
Yeah, right. Dude, you should have checked it out.
Dude, you should have came out last night, dude.
Yeah, it was thrown down, man.
Ah, man, I miss that place, and I miss, how it was. And you
Yeah.
can maybe give us some insight, because I talk a lot on my channel about, the 80s, and I got there probably about 86. So if you could give me some idea of, like, maybe when you started playing out there, and the what was going on.
Right. What was going on for me, like in the 70s, was we would do like a chain of restaurants, top 40 band, and we were like making money every week, and that was our full-time gig. We didn't have to worry like today is so different, I don't those gigs don't, you know, exist anymore as
Yeah.
far as I know,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was like a full band, we it was a great, great times, it's like it's too bad the musicians today couldn't, enjoy that type of thing,
I know. It's like back in those days, and I remember, every lounge, every Holiday Inn had a band.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
that's where you would, get you cut your teeth playing those hit songs. And I know that you got a lot of experience, back then, put dropping the needle on the record, and trying to figure out parts and cop
Yeah,
guitar tones.
right, exactly. That's what it was all about. Yeah, we didn't have YouTube and all that good stuff we have today, And yeah, that was I did that for, quite a few years until finally I was in this one band. It was kind of like a semi-original and top 40. And the keyboard player, I knew him and his wife, Lisa Sarna, and she was one of the backup singers for Rick. And I heard they needed a guitar player. She recommended me. I went down, auditioned, and that was pretty much it.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Were
was
you the
crazy.
were you the only guy that auditioned? Did you just walk in and they go, "You're the dude"?
Pretty much it was, yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
She recommended me, and they heard me play, dug my vibe, and there he was, and yeah, I was like, you walk out into the big leagues, they're
Dude,
there.
did you? I mean, but you probably didn't really realize, maybe, because you're always like wondered, well, I got this gig, but you don't, you're kind of feeling things out, right?
Not really, no. I felt right at home, and
Yeah.
yeah, I was all in at 100%. Nothing holding back.
Yeah, but you didn't know. I mean, you never know what the future holds. So you knew this was a good situation, but you had probably no idea how big it was going to be.
Right, being young and stupid, I didn't even think about the next day.
Yeah,
I was living in the moment.
yeah,
Everything is cool. I mean, the world could have ended tomorrow or something,
yeah,
and I didn't care.
yeah. So you were, what age were you at that time?
I was like 25, 25.
So you've got enough experience, and by that time you've made a few mistakes. So
Yeah,
you get in. That's a perfect time to get a gig like that.
yeah.
You get in there at 19 and you might screw it up.
Yeah, yeah,
25, 25, you kind of, okay, yeah, all right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I certainly learned a lot too,
Yeah, yeah,
leading up to that point,
yeah.
how to
You
be and what
played,
not to do.
yeah, you played with Little Anthony, right?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you got canned from that gig, right?
yeah, kind of a funny story. I did a couple of tours with them, and then we were off the tour this one time, and what happened? I went to collect unemployment, and we were getting paid cash. I had our checks, and they weren't taking out any of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So the unemployment office contacted Joe Bet Music, it's his company, and he blew a lid, man. He called me up and he says, "Man, what the fuck are you doing?" And he says, "We're gonna have to call it a day." I said, "Okay, sorry."
Wow. People, it's crazy, man. I put out a video about getting fired from my first road gig, and it
Yeah.
it blew up. It's
Uh,
like people want to hear about these stories, and we call that in Nashville, we call unemployment, we call it redneck retainer. So when the tour ends, you go and get redneck retainer. You can wait. You can wait till they go back out on the road.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, right. Oh man. Yeah,
Yes. So
playing with Little
now,
Anthony was good too. I before that I had played with Fabian. I don't know if you
oh
ever
wow.
heard him.
Yeah, oh yeah. Turn
When
turn me
I was
loose.
yeah, when I was like 19, and
Yeah.
uh that was pretty good experience traveling all over. And I was just barely, you know, a couple years in, but I'm playing guitar,
Yeah.
3 or 4
Wow.
years, and so I didn't know really shit,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, the Fabian gig must have had middle-aged women for eons, right? It must have been just
Yeah.
middle-aged women screaming and throwing themselves at Fabian, right?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was always the youngest student in the band, so it was like, yeah, I was like, whoa, this is unique.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fun though. It's fun to imagine. Fabian was like an Elvis. You know?
Yeah, yeah, he was. He was.
Yeah.
You
Wow. That's so. So now you go. You meet Rick. You,
Uh-huh.
you get the gig. Now, what kind of rig would you have been playing through at this time? What was like? Did you have to take something down there, or did they have SIR? Or
I think they had SIR, some Fender amps and stuff, and I bought maybe a couple pedals, and that was pretty much it.
yeah,
But then when we went on tour, his first tour, man, the road manager at the time, he got this really weird solid state shit. It was built in like a big rack, and two power amps and just a solid state amp, and it did not sound well at all.
yeah,
It was pretty lame actually.
yeah,
No
yeah,
guitar tone at all. But
yeah,
I stuck with it and did it, and finally the next tour I went on to Mesa Boogies and stuff.
yeah, yeah. Now, the thing is, about pedals, and I've tried to tell people about this on my channel. When I was a kid, it's like you had a big muff, you had MXR distortion plus, you had the DOD, 250,
Yeah,
and that was about it. That's about all there
right.
was.
Yeah, yeah. I had like the probably MXR distortion, maybe a compressor, and the chorus, the CE2.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I always liked the distortion plus. I think with the right, like a Marshall or something like that, and if you can crank the amp up enough, they sound pretty good, I think.
yeah, yeah. They do. They sound great. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. No light on it though, so you'd
Right.
go out there and you'd have to test it real quick to see if it's on. So you don't want to start the ballad, with a dirty tone.
Right, right.
And then you're on a dark stage.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
now I watched, before this, I watched one of your other interviews. So one, I could, hear some of the questions and some of the talking points, but also, know what to ask. And you played a big, shortly after you joined the band, you played like Funk Fest 1979, right?
Yeah.
109,000 people.
Uh-huh.
Dude,
LA Coliseum. That was
dude.
amazing. Yeah, dude. That was wild. That was really
Oh,
wild. Most people I've ever seen in a stadium in my life, and it was kind of weird. At one point, there was a fight that broke out, and it looked like a punk. You're at a punk concert. Everybody's pushing each other and fighting, and it's like
yeah.
a tornado,
Yeah.
and just
Melee.
it was like it was wild.
Wow. And
Yeah,
did, like, I would imagine Rick, rehearse when he rehearsed, he goes through it's like sparring in the gym, right? But
right.
then once you unleash him in front of 109,000 people, it's all of a sudden Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, he's gonna go out there and just and I could just imagine that just being mind blowing being out there for that.
Yeah. He definitely gave everything he had on stage. He was such a great performer, and he was really one of the tops.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Always knew, and I would be watching TV, and dude, you guys were on Merv Griffin.
Right.
But I always knew, man, if Rick James was going to be on, I knew I was going to see something. He was going to be putting on a show. And everybody's dressed to the nines, and I think it's the Merv Griffin show. You had the Charvel. It's a Bumblebee. And it's like the Van Halen 2 guitar. I think, is that correct?
Right. Yeah. That was one of them. That was actually a parts guitar made up, and somebody painted it for me. It was just a different neck, a different body. I think most of the parts were from a company called Mighty Might, I think.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, and they put it together, and I thought, yeah, this is cool. Then I got a Floyd Rose, and it was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven.
Yeah. And those Floyd Roses were made so well back then, right?
Yeah, they were.
They don't make them like they used to, right?
Right. Yeah, they were a tank, and you could, yeah, they were nice. It
And
was so
and when
sweet.
when that came out, it changed how everybody played, of course, because now you could get away with, murder,
Right.
and you almost sometimes they'd say, no, don't use that. They knew when you broke that out, it was all over, right?
Yeah.
You could get in trouble with those.
Yeah, you can, use it too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's interesting because I know you had a relationship with Charvel and Jackson and Grover
Yeah.
Jackson, and I
Yeah.
remember opening up the Guitar Mag and seeing that famous ad with you and Steve Vai, and I think
Yeah.
the guy from Autograph is on there, and Spacey T, and Victor
Right.
Johnson, and
Right.
the Michael Sweet from Striper, and I mean, it's like a who's who of kind of like the rock, LA kind of guys. And dude, those were the coolest guitars on the planet. Every kid in America wanted those guitars. I saw that ad and I'm just like, if I could just have one of those guitars, it's like the golden chalice,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, when we took pictures for that, I wasn't feeling well at all, and I almost didn't go. But anyway, I ended up going, and I didn't even know half the guy, hardly anybody there,
Yeah.
because I was more into the scene I was in, the funk stuff and
Yeah.
um the rock thing. I enjoyed it. But I knew Steve Vai, I wish I would have talked to him a bunch more.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty cool. And Rover treated us really well.
Yeah. So
Those
you,
guitars were outstanding.
yeah, and you had you guys, because I noticed like through your career, you've in that picture, you've got it's like a checkerboard kind of design, like a three-dimensional kind of checkerboard. And I've seen some other clips. I think Rick is playing another Charvel. It's got like I think it's some kind of red design or something
Yeah,
on
I
it.
think it was it was my other good one of my other Charvels. It was like a red bullseye or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you guys knew exactly like the right gear as far as one, it looked
Hmm.
great. The Rickenbacker 4001 with, Rick, on the album cover with that. And I know you guys as bass player would like play that live. Just the coolest looking, aesthetic, of an instrument. And,
Yeah.
for a kid seeing that, it's like, yes, it was just so incredible. Did you have like an open relationship, or how did it work with getting those guitars back then?
Yeah, it was an open relationship. It was to tell you the truth, it was pretty much whatever you want, you know.
Wow.
Unlike today, it's like,
Yeah.
well, can you give me 25% off? That would be an endorsement, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
But unless you're, somebody really well known,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it was he gave me anything I wanted.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. And
Yeah.
so by the time you were playing those guitars, did your rig change as far as to kind of reflect the type of acts you were playing at the time?
Um a little bit, yeah, it changed. When I went with New Edition, I got this Ibanez RG, and I love that thing, and I played that for a while. That was pretty much about the change of the rig, but most of all, it was always the Charvels.
And like you guys are doing, and I don't want to skip ahead, but I'm kind of ADD, so I tend to go all over the place. But like you guys are touring now. The Stone City Band plays, and I've watched clips of you guys, and it's just absolutely amazing to hear all those Rick James songs and the Stone City Band songs. And I know you're a connoisseur of guitars. I
Yeah,
know you like Sirs, and you like the good stuff, man. And
right, right,
and pedal boards, and I mean the great thing is a lot of guys, as they get older, they get set in their ways and they don't want to try new stuff and they don't want to do this, but you've embraced all of the latest stuff, and you're still searching, you're still like tone chasing, and I think
right.
that's so awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much tone chasing, it's just tweaking things, You have a different palette, for something else. I
Yeah.
just recently got the quad cortex, and because I was so tired of lugging my 40 46 pound pedal
Yeah.
board around in
Yeah.
my case. And with the quad cortex, I tried it at one gig and it worked out great.
Yeah.
The only thing is, right now I'm pushing buttons.
Yeah, how do you run that with an amp, or do you run it just direct and roll with it?
No, I have a Seymour Duncan amp,
Ah.
and I just need a cabinet, so I'm all set.
So your backline requirements are 1 4 12.
Yeah, 1 4 12 or 2 12.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. Make it simpler because, yeah, I mean, because you go in, sometimes you would get a Fender Deluxe that was broken or something, you know, and so I got tired of that. And so I just said, let's do this. It sounds like the best option. Plus, it's
Yeah.
easier on travel.
Yeah. I would always ask for two of whatever I needed.
Yeah,
So if I had a back line, I'd say If it was a Fender style gig, I'd say give me two twins,
Mm.
and I knew between the two of them that I would probably be able to get through the show, hopefully.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
it was a rock gig, I'd say two JCM 800s and two 412s, you
Right,
know.
right. There
But,
you
you know,
go.
stage volumes now are a lot different than they were back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's all about having a clean stage,
Yeah.
which is nice,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. It's easier on your ears and it's easier on your singer.
Right, absolutely,
Yeah.
no doubt, no doubt. A good monitor man and a front house guy,
Yeah.
is the key too.
So you like the what you're getting out of the quad cortex. You know, you're getting the tones that you need to cop, you know, what's on the record. Are you going for certain types of amps for like your clean, your funky type stuff, or what's your kind of concept behind that?
Yeah, yeah, the clean stuff I like are the Fender amps in there. For the the crunch stuff, I like the Marshall. I mean the Freebens,
Ah,
and that's pretty much about it. Just pretty much those two are the main things, and just different variations on maybe a chorus, more delay, and some.
yeah, yeah. That's so cool that you're you know doing that stuff because man, I get so many guys that they won't. Oh, I don't do that. But man, here's the thing, man. If you want to record at home,
Mhm.
that's you get the better tones doing that than me throwing my amp in the closet and slapping a mic on it. You know, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
it's not that even in a good studio, man. You know, unless you got cartage. You know, you got to fill your car up with gear and hope that when you get there that the guy knows where to put the mic and dial it in and it's like
yeah,
and you could have just brought your box and go boop, there it is. And
yeah.
you know,
And even home recording, Universal Audio has some awesome plugins.
yeah.
I've got a bunch of those, and yeah, they sound great too. The amps and all that, the
Yeah.
reverbs, the studios, and it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. It's a whole different world, man. What were the budgets like back in the day when you guys did albums? Were they like $200,000 or something like that?
I really don't know, but that sounds pretty ballpark. Maybe
Yeah.
250.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would do like maybe 2, 3 weeks, and yeah,
You,
it was pretty wild.
you would lock out the studio for 2 or 3 weeks. You guys would go in there and you guys worked all night, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rick was after he get through with this little party stuff, he would come in, and let's go, let's do it. And yeah, I mean, it'd be like till 6 o'clock in the morning. Some of the times we were just hanging out. Okay, when's it going to finish? It's like,
Yeah.
but
Wow.
yeah, he had a lot of energy in the studio. And that's where he wrote most of his lyrics. I mean, we would
Wow.
have the whole soundtrack. I mean, the track laid, and we would kind of rehearse the stuff before we went in the studio. But he really didn't have a grasp on lyrics. And once the track was laid, he um, he would write the lyrics down. It was amazing to watch him work. He
Wow.
would just come up with all this stuff. Okay, play it back. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
he was just a genius to work with.
Wow. Do you feel that because he was such a genius and he had so much energy and so much talent that, you know, often I feel like that is like it's like a burden that you have to carry, you know, and having to be that guy, having to be Superman every
Yeah,
night. That is an incredible burden to carry. And, you know, I've often said on my channel, man, you got to know when to take that cape off.
right, right, absolutely. Yeah, because he took care of his family and he had a lot of responsibility. He felt towards other people, besides the band, and yeah, it was a tough road to hoe.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing the legacy that he left behind, and we didn't know, what we know now. Like,
Uh-huh.
like Elvis. Nowadays they go, all right, dude, intervention. you
Right,
know,
right.
they'd send him somewhere, get him on the treadmill. All
Yeah.
right, you're going to take the next 6 months off. And things have progressed a lot, and people are learning more about the rigors of the road and touring, and the toll it takes. I've
Hmm.
often said that it's like PTSD when you come
Yeah.
off the road and it's like you're shell shocked, and you come home and nobody can really understand what you've just been through. you
Right,
know
right.
People
Yeah.
screaming, people, the madness of the party afterwards, and all that stuff, and usually you're having to drink just so you can just calm down you
Yeah,
know
absolutely. It's such a high, I mean, everything goes, yeah, your body's saying, whoa, you're up on this high,
you
and
you don't want to come
when,
down.
no, when I came off the tour, I noticed I was like humming because I kind of hum when I play,
Yeah,
my lines and stuff. And I would just wouldn't have a guitar in my hand, but I was humming,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was a part of the PTSD, I guess.
yeah, yeah. It's like that scene in Apocalypse Now when you're off the road and you're laying in bed and that ceiling fan's going and you're
Yeah,
looking at it and you're waiting for another mission.
right.
And after this mission, I would never want another. It's, dude, I mean, I would watch. I got on a thing on the road where I would watch that movie like 2 or 3 times a week
Yeah.
because I started feeling like I was in the movie because
Uh-huh.
you're traveling down the river and
Right.
you're stopping at different points and you're this and crazy stuff and you're seeing madness and mayhem and all this and you're on the way to see the wizard.
Right.
It's just, people can't really understand. It's like you come home, you've been on the road and everyone's, oh, you're awesome and all that, and you come
Uh-huh.
home and it's like, take out the trash.
Yeah, exactly,
I'm not taking out the trash. I just played for 10,000 people.
Right. You know who I am?
Yeah, I mean, but that don't work at home.
Right.
It's it's
Exactly.
it's crazy, but I want to bring awareness to that because I see, it doesn't have to be a tragic ending for these amazingly talented, people,
Right,
and
right.
I just think it's important for people to realize, it's kind of like being a lion in the zoo. And
Hmm.
the lion comes out each day and it roars and the crowd goes, "Oh, look at the lion." But some days that lion doesn't want to come out and roar.
Right,
He
right.
just doesn't. I mean, have you ever gone on stage and you've got to play this song's coming up and you're like, man, I'm either too hungover or three, man, I don't know if I have it tonight or I don't know if I really want to play this song right now.
Yeah, no, there was never a point like that, for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I always enjoyed, maybe I wasn't feeling the best at the time or whatever, but I was tired, maybe a little hungover, but no, it was always, once the stage light hit,
Yeah.
the on button went on.
Yeah. And you guys had such great songs, you know, uh, that you would love it. Some of the stuff I had to play on the road, I'm like, man, I don't want to play this. You know, I don't really want to play this right now, but dink, 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 bling, you
Yeah.
know. But man, it's so amazing that we're able to to do these interviews and hear these stories now because
Hmm.
the legend of Rick James. I mean, it's YouTube, so we can't go crazy, and everything's kind of got to be sort of PG rated. But
Right.
how wild were the after parties?
Uh, they got pretty wild sometimes. Sometimes I rode with the crew right after the gig because you're just like so up. You're
Yeah,
just you can't come down right away.
yeah,
And they would have the good stuff on the bus,
yeah, yeah,
the beers and all the
yeah,
other
yeah,
good jazz,
yeah,
and we
yeah,
play cards or whatever, and
yeah, yeah,
stay up all night.
yeah, yeah. The crew will always party, right?
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Those guys had it together.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
now the tour, you guys did a famous tour with Prince.
Uh-huh.
And I know it was like between Rick and Prince, it was some kind of rivalry or something, but both of you guys, both Prince and Rick James, and both bands, incredible bands. And man, what a super bill. Imagine going to that concert. I mean, if you weren't in the
Right.
band, imagine being out there and seeing that. I mean, just think about that, how incredible that is.
Yeah. Yeah, two amazing entertainers, and then Prince was pretty much getting started,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was such a cool guy. I talked to him a few times and on the side of the stage, and he was good, but Rick, for some reason, just didn't gel with him. I don't know
Yeah.
if he was jealous or I don't know.
Yeah. Now, I read a story in Rick's book. I think it was Tales of a Super Freak or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And he tells a story, and maybe you can verify this, but he tells a story where Prince was at sound check and Prince was playing drums and Prince was doing something, and I guess his band was all kind of standing around like, ooh, ah, at what Prince was doing. And Rick got up and said, "Give me those sticks." And Rick said he wiped the floor with Prince. I don't know. Did you have any recollection of anything like that?
No, I don't remember that, but it sounds about right though.
So
No, I didn't see
could
that.
Rick could hit the skins?
Yeah, he was a good drummer,
Yeah,
no
he was
doubt.
he was saying like he was doing like Tony Williams type stuff. Like
Oh, really?
well,
Yeah,
like from a jazz angle or something like that.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. He could play drums. Yeah,
So multi-talented, played a lot of different instruments, right?
he did. Some better than others. You know.
Yeah. And he kind of had the blueprint of getting the girl group and having the multiple acts, having Stone City Band, having the Mary Jane girls. Wasn't
Yeah,
it really Rick that kind of started off with that?
he did. He did. Yeah, he had they were called the Color Girls at first, and then they changed the name to Mary Jane Girls.
Yeah.
They did a couple albums, and the band had three albums.
And you played on the Mary Jane girls stuff as well.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of rig would you have been playing at that time on something like that?
Basically, it was direct into the board,
For like
which is
the
kind of
funky, like
wild.
clean tones, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which
Yeah.
is kind of strange, but it worked out well.
Yeah. That is a sound, and more often than not, it's been used a lot over the years. And through a good pre with a
Yeah,
little studio compression, it's
right.
actually a pretty cool sound for that style of playing.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely worked out well. I
Yeah.
wasn't too happy at the beginning. Oh, I gotta have an amp. I gotta have an amp. But it worked out a lot better going
Yeah.
direct.
Yeah. And like I think isn't Purple Haze, wasn't that direct into the board, into like a fuzz pedal into the board and a Telecaster or something like that?
Really? I don't know. I never heard that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Purple Haze supposedly is a Telecaster and it's direct into the board.
Oh my God.
Maybe I'm forgetting something, but I know the Telecaster thing, which who knew, right?
Yeah. Wow. Not surprising because it's all in the fingers.
Yeah, yeah. That is a huge thing. Now, the first album that you recorded with Rick was the Fire It Up record.
Right.
And that was, man, there's some really cool guitar parts on there.
Uh,
Stylistically, the funk little, I love that. We call it in Nashville, we would call it chicken picking, although it's done with the picks, and
uh,
it's single note, kind of playing.
right.
And what was your blueprint for that? Who did where did you kind of get that idea from to play like that?
I listened to like Lee Ritenour, Larry Carlton, Steve Lukather, all that stuff. Um, Ray Parker, you know, that's where I
Yeah.
copped a lot of those ideas from.
Yeah. Ray Parker is a very underrated guitar player.
He certainly is. Yeah.
People don't realize the Ghostbusters guy was actually a very good studio guitar player and played some cool stuff, man.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool. And he was opening up for us too on the road.
Wow. Did you get
Yeah.
to hang with him? Did you hang with him a little bit?
No, I just hung out with the keyboard player a little bit.
Yeah. And so being in LA, you got to see Van Halen. I guess I saw a story where you got very close. You got to meet Edward Van Halen. What year was that? Like 81 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I was like in heaven. You
That
know,
that was the Fair Warning tour, I think.
might have been.
Yeah. Mean Streets.
Yeah, yeah. That was, I was like, oh my God, I met my hero, Eddie,
And
and David and
what did you think of those guys? I mean, because you guys are putting on an amazing show and had an amazing front man.
um,
It's different genres at the time, though.
yeah, no, but I was just in love with Van Halen, you
Yeah.
know, Eddie, the rock god, you
Yeah.
know.
Did Rick ever listen to Van Halen?
Not that I know of,
Yeah.
but I know David Lee Roth listened to one of the album's street songs.
Yeah. Oh, Roth did. He
Yeah,
did.
right, right.
And when I was a young pup and I was hanging out with the Wooten brothers, Victor Wooten and Joe Wooten and all those guys, dude, we would be jamming "Give It to Me, Baby" like all the time.
Really?
Oh, dude, and still to this day, like if when I was still in Nashville and I would do gigs with those guys, dude, we would call that song all the time. That song it's got so much energy and the horn parts. I
Yeah,
mean, and Mary Jane was another one that we would play a lot.
right, right.
So
There's a
those guys were all about Rick James, and I remember one of the Wooten brothers saying Rick James was like it was almost like operatic funk because he had that wide vibrato. He had that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of.
yeah.
It was like his own like thing, and
Right.
that's how much influence you guys don't realize that you have that just the almost there is a lot of funk bands in Nashville. You would not think that that's the case, but it's like I when I was living in Nashville, the whole time I was living there, 90% of the time what I was doing is playing in funk bands. And the
uh,
rest of the time, because here's the thing, the people with money that have the big mansions and live, up on the hill, they don't want to hear the music that they're selling to the rest of the country.
right.
They want to hear some soul. They want to hear some funk. They want to dance. They want to party. So for years, that's all. I would play those gigs and I would meet guys that would go on to play on country gigs. And, eventually when country music changed and it became more rock and roll, well,
Right.
then I got the call. But
Uh,
I never wanted to play that. I was more than happy to play "Give It to Me, Baby," for whoever wanted to hear it. because that's party music, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all feel good music, you know.
I would put that, the same thing where Van Halen won. You pull it on Van Halen one, and all of a sudden you want to tap a keg, burn one, and smash a can, upside your head. And if as soon as you put on "Give It to Me, Baby" or any of those, all of those, Rick James hits, you want
Uh-huh.
to get up, you want to party, you just immediately start moving around. It's just something about capturing that vibe on a record.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The band, we basically did our own parts, and it really came together well. Really, that Street Songs album was one of the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest album. And dude, I salute you, Super Freak. Dude, Super Freak is perhaps one of the greatest songs of all time. I mean, in my opinion,
Yeah.
dude, it's like celebrating the beautiful women who love
Uh,
the band. I mean, it's like if they could all, they say they could all be California girls if they could all be super freaks. You know,
exactly.
it's just, dude, I when that comes on and I hear that song, it just transports me. I imagine that there's this magical, being that comes in and she's got a hotel room and she's got candles and incense. It immediately takes me there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that was Rick, with those great lyrics.
Yeah. Do you think he got that from personal experience, or do you think was just creating on the spot?
Oh no, definitely personal experience. Yeah, no. He had a lot of
Yeah.
experience with that.
He tried to say that, well, Super Freak is just a song, right? It was on
Right.
that Judge Joe Brown or something. But
Uh,
in reality, come on, Rick, now. Come on.
yeah. There's a lyric in the song that goes uh, something about room 714.
Yeah.
714 is a quaalude.
Ah.
And yeah, when we were in Sausalito, he had this doctor that came in. He would give us prescription for
Wow.
714. Yeah.
Wow. That's kids. That's something I didn't know. I just assumed it was the hotel room.
Yeah. No, it was a
Yeah.
meaning
Why
behind
pick
that number.
714? But
Yeah.
it's you learn something every day. That is incredible, dude. It just that whole time period and stuff. It just doesn't seem like the rock stars. Rick James is a poster. Eddie Van
Yeah.
Halen is a poster. Jimi Hendrix is a poster.
Right.
Do we have anybody that's I mean, I know there's kids that like stuff,
Right.
but I don't think it would make a very good. I don't see Post Malone. I wouldn't personally want him on my wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Right.
I
Yeah. I
don't know.
like Post Malone, but yeah, there's not too many people I can think of.
It's a different world than that world that we were in, and we'd have known that it wasn't going to stay the same and the music was going to change, maybe we would have turned the dial up one more notch
Right.
and
Right.
stayed one more hour at that last party.
Right.
You think
Right.
it's gonna you think it's gonna go on forever. It's the same thing with the hair bands.
Yeah.
We were all like, and you see trends in the music business come and go.
Right.
And you're like, I see grunge coming, and I'm like, it's just like the Spin Doctors. It's just like whatever else, punk rock or whatever else that they try to push, and then all of a sudden the strip it just fades away. You know,
Yeah. 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 No doubt.
and the funk bands. Where are the funk bands? I know you guys are carrying the torch, and I will say this: go see the Stone City Band. you will have the time of your life. You got Tom McDermott over there ripping it up on guitar, and that dude, that whole band is just awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of good cats,
And how many of the original cats are still out with you guys these days?
Right now, we just have four, myself included. Levi on keyboards, Lannis and Nate on drums and percussion.
That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because Levi, I would say Levi is like he's almost you and Levi are the two guys that kind of have to be there.
Right, right.
I feel like,
Yeah,
it's like those are the guys that besides Rick, I would go and I always noticed you because I'm like that's the rock dude, you
right.
know, and it's like here's the thing, man. People didn't realize that radio was so kind of separated at that time,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the type of mixes that you would have on an R&B record or a funk record and the type of mixes that you would have on a Van Halen record, it's two entirely different things at that time.
Right,
So you couldn't have come in with Eddie Van Halen's rig on a Rick session
right,
because they didn't you couldn't have put that much crunch on a Rick James record at that time because it wouldn't appeal to black radio,
right, right, right.
right?
Yeah, that's
And so when Lukather played on Beat It and he did the rhythm stuff, he initially tracked it with his Marshall. And
wow.
Quincy, because he said, "Oh, it's Van Halen," and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna crunch it all out." And Quincy said, "No, no, man. Hey, man, can you track that on your deluxe reverb? Because I
Wow.
don't, because we got to get it on R&B radio." So,
Makes sense.
and it is when now it's still pretty crunchy, but it was one of those. Who was the guy? I can't think of his name now, but he used to mod the deluxe reverbs. Uh,
Oh, Paul Revere, I know. Yeah, was
Yes.
one of.
Yes.
Yeah,
It was his Revere Deluxe Reverb. So you could dial in gain and a lot of those studio guys used those back then.
yeah, yeah. No doubt. Yeah,
Did you ever have anything like that?
yeah. I did. I had a deluxe reverb, and Paul did modify mine because
Wow.
everybody else was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to get the sound.
Yeah. You had to have that.
Yeah, no
And,
doubt.
and it was a good tool because you could carry that amp in and you could dial in some different sounds, which is
Right.
was a big thing back then.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt.
That's incredible. Well, man, I want to thank you so much for doing this. This has been something I was looking forward to. I told my wife, I said, look, this is very important to me. So don't be knocking on the door. I want to be able to talk to Tom and get, the inside. Is there anything you want to plug or any place you want to direct people? I know you're working on some guitar music and stuff like that, and I want to
Hmm.
I want to direct people to your stuff.
Yeah, just there's a Facebook Stone City band. That they'll get all the information and the current stuff we're doing.
Yeah. Now, how many dates a year are you guys doing these days?
We're doing about 10 maybe, and
Yeah.
we got in January and February we have two cruises, and then we have some summer dates. You know,
You got anything in Florida coming up?
I wish we did. I wouldn't have to go so far.
Man, I'm almost feeling like because we're in the same state.
Yeah,
And I know do you know Keith Howland,
yeah, yeah. I know,
guitar
Keith.
player for Chicago?
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Okay.
him?
Right.
He lives here too.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like thinking maybe I need to call Keith up and call Tom up. We could
Sure.
we could do a triple bill somewhere,
Yeah,
create
I'm
our
in.
own baked potato.
There you go. There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Well,
Yeah,
man,
man.
I just want to thank you so much. This has been an
Yeah.
absolute blast.
Well,
And
yeah.
You know, and
Thanks.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, but man, I salute you, brother. You're a legend and carrying the funk flag, into the future, and let's hope we can bring the funk. Let's see a new generation of funk bands coming out, with
Yeah.
some ripping guitar and some slapping bass and some lyrics with some attitude and some
Mhm.
let's bring the sexy back, right?
Right on, man.
Let's bring the sexy back, man. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
All right, Brad, man.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Peace out.
All right. Peace, brother.